Again. Hi, and welcome to this month's edition of Coach's Corner. Today, our subject is neurodiversity in the cycling space. We're joined today by our special guest, who's on the call there, Scott Cornish. He is from an organization called Perform Unbound, and he's an expert speaker in autism and ADHD. And he's kindly offered his time this evening to speak on the subject. I'm literally going to pass over to you now, Scott. Do you want to just
Yep.
you just want to
Yeah,
start?
thanks very much for that, Mark.
Yeah.
Can everybody see my screen okay? Is that coming up? Yep. Thumbs up. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be talking about neurodiversity, particularly autism and ADHD within the cycling space, looking kind of beyond just the fitness benefits. That's me doing a bike pack trip in New Zealand. Let's see if we can it's gonna go.
Yeah,
So it's
well, so let's go back to the first picture, Scott, because we had a conversation about the first image. I thought it was at top of a mountain in Wales somewhere, and somebody burnt down all the trees, like they do in the Rhondda every spring. But it's actually New Zealand, as you said. So
Yeah,
similar
it's
landscape,
not far
Scott.
from not far from Kosciuszko, where they had all the fires all pre-COVID. It's still
All right,
remnants of
okay.
that. So,
Yeah, interesting. The landscape's similar, but anyway, yeah.
so what we're going to do in this session, going to briefly talk about my autism and ADHD journey, and look at the sort of intrinsic, extrinsic barriers to basically sort of joining cycling clubs, training, competition, things like that. What strengths we do have with our neurodiverse brains, what it means, difference between belonging and fitting in, which has been a huge thing for me over the years, even before knew I was neurodiverse, and that's sort of what how cycling has really helped me. The paradoxes of being both autistic and ADHD. A lot of people talk sort of, yeah, I'm ADHD or I'm autistic. But having those two together, they two tend to clash quite a lot. And then we'll have some brief look at how cycling, is a powerful tool for supporting our neurodiverse brains. And then we'll do some questions and answers at the end. So a little bit about me, where I've come from, and why I'm doing these workshops and talks. I found out very late in life that I'm autistic, ADHD, literally 3 years ago, at the age of 50. So I spent all my life navigating life without really understanding why I had a lot of difficulties in life, challenges with daily life, problems with sort of social situations, work, just growing up, learning. And I started looking into it because both my sister's kids are special education needs, and she started talking about it. And the more I delved into it, the more boxes I started ticking, and a lot of it started making sense, and all the dots started connecting for me about why I had all these difficulties, and then why my cycling and my sport was really important for me, and how it's really helped me navigate life and allowed me to create these human connections, meaningful connections with people that I wouldn't otherwise have in life that I otherwise found really difficult. Whereas, all of my other friends were finding it quite what it seemed to me quite easy to create these relationships with people, have a really good social life. Where for me, I just didn't feel like I fitted in anywhere properly. I just couldn't create that kind of real connection with people. So there was a certain element of loneliness that I had throughout life of I just didn't, I didn't feel happy kind of being anywhere, even if I kind of went out. I'd get tired really easily. I'd want to leave after about an hour. I'd just have this sort of real social fatigue, which that a lot of autistic ADHD people do get. Um, and the challenges with that, then the more you go out, the more you go home early, then people don't end up not inviting you out anymore. So that's sort of just you become even more kind of this feeling of loneliness. Um, so that's why I used to end up going out on my bike by myself quite a lot. So that was my own way of self-regulation, if you like. So I always thought there was something wrong with me. I had sort of a certain level of learning challenges as well, learning difficulties if I wasn't interested in a subject at all. then I really found it really hard to absorb the information and be engaged with the subject, certainly in class. But, conversely to what people normally think of ADHD boys, I wasn't destructive. I was completely opposite. I was actually quite quiet. So I was really quite good at masking kind of my issues and trying to fit in, trying to answer questions. Um, so growing up, eventually I had this depression diagnosis from my doctor, and I believed I was depressed for maybe 15 years of my life, and I was treated for that with medication. Um, but that was just because of my ADHD, if you like, and that wasn't really looked into. It was just I just went to the doctors and they just gave me drugs and sent me on my way, and didn't really kind of look into the reasons behind why I was feeling so low and low down because I just really wasn't coping with life, wasn't fitting in, wasn't really getting on with people, wasn't really getting with my schooling. I mean, I was getting grades, but they weren't that great, and I was just tired all the time of trying to fit in, trying to be like everybody else, trying to be normal, whatever that is. And for our autistic AD brains, that's just really quite exhausting. And that's why I used to find it quite difficult socially when I went out. After about an hour of trying to fit in, trying to be normal, we'd just get this huge sort of social fatigue and just want to leave again, um, go back home and almost sort of reset and be by ourselves. So when I guess sort of touch on a little bit later as well, the sort of paradox of autistic ADHD. 'Cause ADHD is we like novelty and new experiences, and going out and exploring. Whereas autism's almost the complete opposite. We like routine and predictability and knowing what's going on, and we really don't do well with ambiguity and with instructions that aren't really clear at all. We really kind of struggle with that. We need to know where we are, what we're doing. And if we don't, then that creates a huge amount of anxiety and stress for us. And as we kind of know with sort of younger people, then they can have these complete meltdowns and breakdowns, and it's really hard then to get them out of that cycle. So that's why I sort of do these workshops in a way, is trying to make people understand that if you have this sort of crossover of these two different neurotypes, then it constantly creates this clash all the time, which can be really quite fatiguing and tiring for us. So ADHD brain is sort of you want to go and do something, you want to go and do some racing, you want to go out and meet people, but the other brain's sort of thinking, oh, well, are you going to fit in? Are you going to be accepted? What about your social issues? It's just going to be, this is going to be really challenging for you. You sure you really want to go and do this? So you're almost building up this intrinsic barrier to wanting to go and do things and be part of clubs or societies or um, groups. Oh, excuse me. So that's why I ended up doing a lot of my cycling by myself, because cycling for me was a way of self-regulation, getting rid of all that sort of pent-up energy that I had from the ADHD side of my brain. But I was happy doing it by myself because of my autism. Um, so trying to break into a club environment was a little bit difficult for me initially, because for all that kind of my life, I didn't understand that I was autistic ADHD. That was always this question of whether I'd be good enough to join a club, would I be accepted? Because I kind of knew that I was a little bit different and a little bit sort of weird, and found it very difficult to create relationships with people. Like sort of managed to sort of somehow gradually creep in. Because I was fairly good at cycling, so that's how I was almost accepted in a way. But within Bristol, where I grew up, there was a really good, strong local mountain bike community that was very accepting of people. But I was almost still made fun of quite a bit for being different. And the friends I have back then, I still have now, actually, most of them. I understand that. All my friends that I have now came from my mountain biking background, and they're the friendships that have really endured because we have this shared passion of outdoor off-road cycling, which is, really concreted that relationship. They kind of still make a little bit of fun of me because I am kind of a little bit different, but I accept that now. I understand it now. So actually, for me, having this diagnosis has really sort of been a huge relief for me, just because I now understand my brain and how it works or how it doesn't work like other people's. So I'm able to almost laugh at myself now and almost laugh at the sort of jokes of other people, which has been really nice. It's allowed me to open up, be my authentic self more than ever used to be. I don't mask as much. I don't try to fit in. I don't try to be somebody else. And that's almost thanks to being part of this cycling community, which has been a lot more inclusive than I found in everyday life, especially in work where sort of it's really quite hard to be accepted and you're trying to be someone within that workplace. Um, and a lot of people think that sort of if you're saying you're neurodiverse, then you're using that an excuse. I try to explain to people now it's not an excuse for something. I'm just trying to explain that's how my brain works. And that's how I'm going to work within this environment. And I want other people to understand that. So then we work together. And I've worked with people where I'll tell them this is how my brain works. This is how I need you to explain something to me. It can't be ambiguous because then I'll just fill in the gaps and sort of create this idea of my head and what needs to be done instead of what should be done. And then managers have actually then discussed with me how they want things done. And then we sort of come to a really good agreement and accommodation of how we then work together, which has been really, really nice. And so that's why this, I feel where this is kind of talking about this and being open about being autistic ADHD is really quite important, and just not just within the cycling club space, but also sort of within the working environment as well. And anybody that sort of deals with neurodiverse individuals like me, the way we communicate with neurodiverse individuals is really quite important. There's not necessarily right and wrong. It takes a while to get to know someone because of all the nuances and layers of being neurodiverse. No one is the same. Because we now understand there are all these crossovers with obviously dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia as well, and with the autism. I mean, it used to be that you used to get diagnosed with just one of those neurotypes, but in the last few years now we sort of really understand that there is a sort of combination of different layers of being neurodiverse, and I'm sort of up here sometimes. And certainly sort of with my relationship with cycling, that's really helped me. I see ideas tend to be fairly practically minded and really good problem solvers. So I used to love delving into all the practical aspects of cycling, whether I'm fixing something on the bike or learning a new skill or being able to climb a steep technical climb or get down a really steep technical descent. It's using my ability to focus on something that I'm interested in and motivated to do. So that's where I used to struggle in education quite a lot because we're channeled through education in a particular way. We're told we have to learn in a particular way. We're told we have to learn certain subjects. And if we can't, then we're sort of labeled as not very intelligent. We don't get the grades. Um, and then our intelligence is based on our grades and not by the things that we can do. Whereas cycling sort of allowed me to grow, build self-confidence, build my own self-esteem, and have these sort of micro achievements, whether it's certain aspects of fitness or certain aspects of fixing the bike or certain aspects of skills learning. For me, that was really important. And also learning some aspects like photography as well when I was out on the bike, taking photography of the scenery of where I was. I mean, a lot of these images that you'll see here are all the ones that I've taken over the years. So I've sort of taken that aspect of it as well because I understand now that I was quite creative, but that was taken away from me in a way because of the way I was directed through my education. I wasn't allowed to explore that necessarily. But being on the bike and being in that community has allowed me to explore that and express that much more than I ever used to. So this community has really allowed me to be authentic within that group and almost have like two lives. when I'm within my cycling group, my cycling community, whether it's here or seeing the friends back in Bristol, a lot of people say to me, really, you're autistic ADHD? I wouldn't have noticed. Because of the way I come across, I'm much more relaxed, I'm much more open, I'm much more conversational. Probably a bit of a geek about biking. I could probably talk about it for hours, technically and parts and travel and but if you're not within that community, then you're obviously going to get really bored, like my parents quite often do. But then outside of that, I'm quite introverted, quite shy. I don't really talk much. I struggle with small talk with people I don't know. So I'm really quite different there. I really have my social issues. And so people sort of say, "Are you okay?" And I try to explain, this is what my brain is doing. And now that I understand my brain, I can actually explain that. And 9 times out of 10, people are quite accommodating. Um, some people aren't, some people sort of just think that's very much an excuse of being different that they can't do something. Um, but yeah, for me, it's allowed me to open up and be myself a lot more, especially kind of within my cycling. So even kind of 4 years ago, probably my greatest fear in life since I used to do school plays when I was 4 or 5, 5 or 6, was speaking in front of an audience and doing something like this. I would never have done it. But because I have this passion around neurodiversity now and biking and bringing those two together, it's almost allowed me to have this confidence to talk about this and express sort of how we are as neurodiverse individuals. Obviously, ADHD, it's got the word deficit and disorder in there, and that's looking now at sort of being changed because that's terminology has been around for like 20 years. It's obviously it's not a disorder; it's just a different way that we perceive the world around us and different way we process the world around us and information that we get. Some sort of aspects of and in a conversation sometimes if you're ADHD you tend to have a bit of a lag in when you want to respond. Almost your brain's kind of trying to process what you want to say. It could be half a second, a second, but then when people assume you don't know the answer, don't know something, and they sort of move on, they don't allow you to have that kind of breathing space to think and process and give your answer. So these are kind of aspects I kind of delve into when I do the full sort of workshops. So moving on. So we kind of said, so they obviously have ADHD. We have this inattentive stereotype where you can't focus on things, you're not listening, or your mind kind of wanders away. I still do that, but I explain to people sometimes that's what happened. I might kind of go away. My mind just might go away for like a minute or two, and then come back in the conversation. But when we're motivated and are interested in a subject, we have this incredible hyper focus, and that's really, really useful for learning mountain bike skills. So obviously, you don't focus, you're going to be hitting the deck if you're doing something really quite technical. So that's almost allowed me to really progress within my cycling, and I got to quite a good level nationally. So when I was doing sort of the long distance marathons and the 12-hour series. And now I do quite a lot of bike packing and bike pack racing. So that's almost where I started. I was when I was 18, was doing a lot of adventure cycling. I mean, people obviously sometimes call it an obsession because we're doing something intently so long, so much. But it's just that we're interested in that, and that's just where we want us, where we find our happy and safe space. Um, when I'm within that community, I do feel much safer, a place where I can, express myself. And certainly with the autism side of stuff, when I was doing my training, we thrive on structure and routine and knowing where we are each day, and that really, really helps. And we have this sort of self-drive to learn more within this space. I mean, with all the sort of data we have now that we can collect through cycling, that just kind of leans into what our brains are really interested in. So that's why we find I'm based here in Chamonix in France. Probably 9 out of 10 of the athletes out here are neurodiverse in some way. because we all lean to kind of mountain sports and the focus we need for that and the motivation to train in the mountains because we love long-term goals and we can become quite obsessed with it. But it does need a certain amount of support and validation as well. And that we sort of sometimes we seek results because we feel we need this validation because we're not getting it elsewhere in life. So that's where sort of support can come from group leaders within cycling clubs is validating kind of what the neurodiverse individuals are doing and validating their progress and how well they're doing. Because we're not always going to progress the same speed as everybody else. So sometimes that just needs to be sort of accommodated, and we need to be sort of showing that the progress we are making is still progress. It may not be like everybody else, but it's just our individual speed, if you like. So there are the sort of positive sides of autism ADHD is sort of the focus and learning to that, but obviously I've understood that all these years that I was undiagnosed, I've built up this sort of level of learnt helplessness. So can't pronounce it very well, but throughout lives as young kids, we get much more sort of soft negative comments throughout our lives, more so than neurotypical kids. So just sort of simple things like, why can't you do that? Why are you late? You should be able to do that. Everybody else can do that. I'm like this. Why aren't you? It's never forget. That's one of the things my father said to me when I was talking to him when I was thinking sort of 19. But even in kind of in schooling, it's like, hurry up, you're late. So yeah, we have a lot of time blindness where I'm ADHD. 5 minutes to us feels like an hour. We've got time to do things, but it's why we end up being late or just on time. And that can kind of really affect us in a way and sort of build this anxiety that we're always going to get this negative feedback from people that we're not capable of doing something. So we sort of build up this fear over time. And it's just sort of these micro criticisms that just build and build and build. So we don't know how to process criticism. We're not, unless we're really taught well what to do with criticism, we just start bringing this catastrophizing in our heads. So and a part of that is our emotional dysregulation as well, where people will react emotionally, neurotypical people will react emotionally to bad news or things that are happening or negative things that are happening. Everybody has this sort of, up and down throughout life, but our emotions will be up here or they'll be on the floor. There's no kind of little sort of in between. And it's understanding ourselves, that's what's happening. Now I know I'm neurodiverse, then that still happens to me. My brain hasn't changed. I'm just able to manage that now and know that my emotions are going to be up here or on the floor and how to manage that much more. Obviously, for younger people, that's really, really hard for them to manage. And if there are adults around them that can understand that, certainly with the club environment, that can be really, really helpful for them. And one of these things of all these sort of negative criticisms that we get throughout life, it builds up to what we call rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So we come to expect rejection. We don't deal with it at all well. We have this fear of doing things, of expressing ourselves in front of other people, the fear of failure, of making mistakes. And with this sort of, I found within this mountain bike community, so in the Bristol, it allowed me to make mistakes and fail and pick myself up because other people would be encouraging. It wasn't about trying harder. It was about processing what happened, understanding what happened, and allowing myself then to try again and try again. And I think that's a really important part of the cycling group environment is creating that space for neurodiverse young people to be able to make mistakes, to fail, to make them see that's okay. Whereas I never wanted to fail. I was always had this fear of doing that. And then being seen that I was incapable and then being rejected by people, if you like. And that was one of always my barriers of joining clubs was that fear of being rejected because I'm different and I'm a little bit weird, for want of a better word. I still know that I am. I still have those difficulties. But then if I start talking about biking with someone else, that's an opening for me. And that's when I sort of do these workshops, I sort of bring together people that have this shared passion for adventure sport, because that can start the conversation. And then that can lead into talking about being neurodiverse, because people don't want to talk about being different or neurodiverse straight away. It's quite a difficult opener. But if I talk about some mountain bike trip or race that I did the other week, it kind of is like a soft entry, if you like. And it's like, okay, I'm able to talk to this person. And that kind of snowballs into discussing and talking about being neurodiverse within the outdoor environment. And PDA is a relatively new bit of research. We're not sure yet whether it's connected with being neurodiverse, but it's pathological demand avoidance. It's where if we know we've got to perform, we know we can perform, but when the time comes, emotionally, it doesn't happen. Our brain doesn't allow it to happen. Like we tell ourselves we've got to do something. We've got to sleep now. We've got to perform now. We almost create this self-block. Um, we almost want to avoid it in a way. Research is still out a little bit on understanding kind of why we do that. I've certainly had that, certainly when I've come to perform in races. Train well, done well on my training, everything's gone as it should have done, get to a race a few nights before. It's a bit more than anxiety. It's a real block to being able to sleep and then starting the next day, or it's kind of a new bit of research that's being looked into, whether it's connected to being neurodiverse or not, but it sort of seems to be at the moment. So that's sort of touched on is this response to criticism. Neurodiverse young people can have very different levels of response to criticism depending on how they've been helped along the way in learning how to process criticism. I didn't have that because no one knew I was neurodiverse. Obviously, when I was younger, it was almost just told to deal with it and get on with it, but I didn't. Luckily, I had the bike. That's how I dealt with criticism. I just go out for a hard ride. The harder, the better. If I came back absolutely knackered, then that made me feel so much better. Obviously, that was not a great way to train. You know, I grew up in an era of go hard or go home. Ended up going home most of the time. If you're going out hard all the time, that's not a great way to train. But I understand better now how to quality train and that. So that sort of comes across in sort of the language we use with neurodiverse young people. Obviously, now with older people like myself, we can manage it a little bit better, but I'm still not great at criticism. It still takes me a little while to deal with it and process it. Obviously, much better than I used to. So we have this, like with the rejection dysphoria, we have this great fear of failure. So it's allowing ourselves to fail sometimes. And the other barriers to sort of getting into clubs or joining with groups is this imposter syndrome of, as I touched on, is are we going to be good enough? Are we going to be a keep up with people? That's an issue why I never really joined a cycling club. So the time around Bristol, it tended to be a lot of road clubs, which tended to be a little bit more serious than the mountain bike ones. Because you want to be perfect at everything we do. ADHD brain has a certain level of perfectionism. If we ain't going to get it right, we have this real fear of doing it, of not getting it right, not attaining the level that we want to be at. We always aim to be sort of where we should be instead of accepting kind of where we are. Um, Sometimes that came across in a few of the clubs I used to join as sort of at a certain age, there's a sort of idea of where you kind of should be instead of accepting where that person is and working with them at that level. And it's sort of that comes across, I think, a lot in our own lives, sort of where we kind of should be in life instead of accepting where we are. So we touched on the aspect of acceptance. I mean, there's two levels of that. It's being accepted by other people that you are a little bit different and creating that accommodation for being included and acceptance of ourselves. So when I talk to a few parents of newly diagnosed children, sort of whether autistic or ADHD, is that acceptance of being different, which can be really hard, when you're growing up as a young person, when you want to be accepted and be part of your peer group, and you want to be normal and part of it. Being different is really hard. And I think this is why the cycling space is a really good space to start off to try and normalize being different, that it's just part of our human ecosystem. I mean, that's still going to take a long time to really happen because society's been created around, it's just how we should be. If you're an outlier outside, you sit out like outside of that, then you're a bit, you're kind of weird and you get marginalized and you're bullied for being different. And that's certainly still true in a lot of workspaces, even though they're getting a lot better now. They're getting this training and education around what it means to be neurodiverse, um, and how they can accommodate the positives and sometimes the negatives of how our brain works. And it's sort of, and we get this sensory overload and overwhelm, which is, I think a lot of people understand around sort of autism. If things aren't right, then we can feel very incredibly overwhelmed and we have this overload and we just break down. I got this my friend's kids, both young girls. A lot of people can't work with them because sometimes at the end of the day, if their brain's tired, that's it, they're switched off. They're going to do what they want to do. No one is going to tell them or convince them to do otherwise. They're going to start doing things at their own pace. They're going to eat what they want, when they want. And if you try and fight against that, and that's just going to create this confrontation. And it's really hard, I think, for any parent or anybody who's working with them to try and go along with how they are until they get to bed, can reset, and then start the next day. And it's hard to work with this overwhelm sometimes, especially with autistic brains. Um, but that's sometimes the best way to deal with it is allow them to have this space where they kind of do their own thing. So whether that's if you're in a group environment, having these spaces where these kids can go off, obviously kind of beam onto someone with them, but where they can just be on their own, have their own time, have this clear space away from other people. And that can kind of just help them settle and bring them down a little bit. So it's not always easy. Every individual comes across as different in how they react to their environment, react to different triggers. Sometimes if you've got children within your groups, we're all going to make mistakes in how we deal with them for the first or the second time. And then when we understand what their triggers are, how they react, whether it's language or the space they're in or the activity they're doing, then we can adjust. I mean, as we were discussing with Mark earlier on, if you have two or three children within your group who are like that, then it's really hard not to spend too much time with them. But it's sort of finding this balance, working with people that have, especially young people who have brains like ourselves. But if you give them something technical to do or practical to do, they can get hands-on and sort of focus on, and sometimes that can really help. I found certainly for me, my photography really helped me. Even I had one of those sort of like throwaway cameras. Someone tells me to go spend 10, 15 minutes taking photographs with one of these cameras. I love that. I'm being creative. I'm doing something. I'm doing something that's of value to someone else that I'm then going to give to that person they're going to do something with. So I feel like I've achieved something. So that really helps me. Even kind of now, I love that. I'll take a camera and go off for half a day and just take photographs, and that helps me regulate in a way. So that could sometimes be something you maybe try it with younger person. Certainly now with my friend's younger kid, if we were out, we're doing a bit of trail hiking, and he was sort of starting to lag and not really interested. If we allowed him to lead and take point and show us where to go, I mean, it was an obvious trail. It was marked. You could see the trail going through the forest or in the hillside. He loved that. He was off. He was focused. He was sort of almost back on with us then. His mind would just completely flip, and he was happy again. It was the kind of change was really quite amazing. And that was back when I really didn't understand about neurodiversity at all. And now looking back, completely see that he was ADHD, and that really helped him. So now sort of I know I bring that to my workshops. So there's sort of a couple of slides about difference between fitting in and belonging, which sort of touched on a little bit. So sort of fitting in is constantly about masking, trying to find your place amongst people where you don't feel quite right. You feel kind of out of place. You don't feel accepted in a way. It's tiring. It's fatiguing. You're okay for an hour or so, and then the social fatigue, and just like, right, gotta go home now. You just feel there's something inherently wrong with us all the time. And it just creates these barriers to connect with people, feeling valued and feeling seen, which is sort of what we want, and almost feeling validated. And that's again why sort of my cycling has helped me and where it helps young people is we have this validation of being part of a group. Um, I don't know about you, but certainly for me, when I was growing up and trying to learn, I was just simply told, try harder, apply yourself more. You can do anything you want. And that used to just create more frustration in me because I was trying as hard as I could. I was applying myself. I was trying all these different things and I wasn't getting anywhere certainly with certain subjects. But I'd go and cycling and I'd go and learn a new skill and I was happy. It's really subject and interest driven in how we can apply ourselves and how well we can do in certain areas. Just trying to try harder in certain areas that we're not interested in, that don't work for us, we're not going to learn. It's kind of as simple as that sometimes. Um, and so sometimes sort of parents, teachers, or club leaders sometimes got to accept that in a way and find something that works for that child's brain where they are going to, areas where they are. Because we all have something. There's always something, whether it's music, it's sport, or whether it's some particular academic subject that we are interested in. It can sometimes just take a long time for that person to find it, of doing different things. I mean, I didn't find cycling until I was 16, 17, and I was off. I was happy. I was happy. By 90 standards, I was quite an overweight kid. I used to be at home just kind of painting these little figurines on my own, just doing my own thing, being creative. And I found cycling and that changed my life pretty much. So I've sort of found this belonging of I suddenly had friends, people who would speak to me and not sort of at me, if you like. I was able to create relationships, connections with people, and join people I'd get invited to come out for rides. This is a whole new concept for me. And people taught me different things. I was allowed to make mistakes. I sort of grow this. I had this sort of self-confidence and self-esteem that kind of built up, and then a certain level of resilience as well. And these micro accomplishments, I was learning new skills. I was adapting. I was learning to make connections with people, building this sort of network of people around Bristol at the time. And I was allowed to be myself. I was actually seen as someone who had value and was contributing to the cycling groups that I was in. And just belonging, this idea of belonging just supports our interest-based learning. So wherever that is, whatever activity or subject it is, we can thrive in that environment, and it's really quite liberating. And you almost feel validated, not just for what you're doing, but as a person as well, that you actually have value within society. Personally, and your diversity is accepted. And those skills that you learn within that environment then almost transfer outside of that into everyday life. Not perfectly, but it's a whole lot better than it was, certainly for me. Because I only found out 3 years ago, I do feel like I'm playing catch up quite a lot. I've had this whole lifetime where I've been told that I'm different and can't do things. And now I'm going, okay. It's just because my brain thinks differently. But I can if I focus on this, this, and this. This is what I can do. Um, so for me, it's been an eye opener. So we sort of touched on the paradoxes of the combination of both being autistic and ADHD. For me, it's just been accepting who I am and allowing myself to be different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing. My brain's not broken. It's just wired differently to a lot of neurotypical, for want of a better word, people. Um, so yeah, it's sort of cycling it's just been for me incredibly supportive. I could never ride steps like that before, but I did that in a race a few years ago. And I was like, oh, I've learned something new. This is great. I didn't crash. Um, so it's just little things like that of just learning skills, understanding how to process. And that's all come through from when I started cycling from when I was 17, but never realizing that's what I was doing until I started about being neurodiverse and all those dots kind of connected. And now I have kind of a good laugh about it with my friends that I've had for the last 25 years that I grew up racing with and riding with. And they come out here, um, be helpful in helping me develop these kind of workshops and putting these talks together for people. Because I never knew how to do it. This is all, it was all kind of new to me 3 years ago. But the kind of feedback I've had from people has been really quite useful and uplifting, and that's why I want to do more of these and actually deliver workshops so people can have come away with toolkits to build in their own environments, which I think is really, really quite important, especially in kind of the language sometimes we use with neurodiverse young people. Instead of just telling them, oh, you can do this, you can get on with it, you're good enough. Is sort of working around that and making and giving them questions and making them think about how they can do it for themselves. Because I just used to annoy me when I was younger, when I was really trying hard and people saying, you can do it, come on, come on. And that almost created this block because in my mind it's going, I can't. Instead of sort of working with me of how I could do it, they were just telling me to do it. And that doesn't really work with our brains, especially with the autistic brain. We need um, precise instructions of how to do something or just leading us through. Or in the case of, I know someone who learned skiing who's autistic, who was pretty much mute by the instructor, just to allow this young boy his space to learn, just to follow the instructor. The young boy didn't really talk or communicate, but after a week, he was a really, really good, strong skier, just because he was allowed his space just to watch the instructor and learn visually. And it's not very often that we get instructors or club leaders who have the patience and the space to give neurodiverse young people the allowance to do that, to kind of learn at their own pace and learn in the way that their brain allows them to learn. But obviously, that takes time, that takes accommodation. And if you've got some neurotypical people within the group, it can be really quite hard and challenging. But that's sort of where these sort of toolkits can really help. It's instead of being reactive to some people and telling them just to get on with it, it's being proactive and understanding, right, how am I going to talk to this person or show them how to learn this particular skill. Um, so yeah, it's about creating these safe spaces for our brains to learn and thrive, essentially, and that's sort of what cycling and has eventually essentially given me. So so that's me rambling on about being neurodiverse. So I've sort of set up Perform Unbound. It's about supporting neurodiverse as part of our sort of human ecosystem and being diverse, being different, having our own, we all carry our own challenges, but we still show up for ourselves, whether it's an event or a club or a ride or whatever that is. The important thing is we show up and we're accepted and we have this space where we kind of feel safe and we can be part of something um, and thrive, essentially. So that's me. That's my little presentation. I know I've sort of gone on about quite a few different aspects there, but people have got obviously questions.
Yeah.
feel free to throw them at me.
Yeah.
And so
So
there's no right or wrong answers, but
So thank you, Scott. I thought that was fantastic and really insightful, and thanks for sharing your story. It was really like powerful. So thank you so much. Yeah. So just on this slide that we're on now. So yeah, we are actually going to be like organizing another call, with one of Scott's workshops. So obviously the people who are on the call today, I'll send out a link to your email how to sign up for that. We're still yet to set the date. But typically, the workshops are around 2 hours, Scott, I think. Is that right?
up to,
Online?
yeah, depending, yeah,
Up
the
to two
interactive
hours.
ones, yeah.
And they're kind of breakout rooms and things of that nature then, and maybe something
Yeah.
similar kind of like formats people might have done before. But yeah, I'll send that kind of invitation out to everyone, and it'll probably be a Monday evening, similar to this. But yeah, that would be great from Gareth. Yeah, great. So yeah, that'll be organized in the next couple of weeks, and obviously we can give you a bit of notice. But I think Monday generally is a good time to do these because everyone's tanked from the weekend because everyone's been out riding their bike surely on the go, and they're all tired and need a rest on a Monday. But anyway, so Peter, yes, he agrees. So so feel free if you don't want to speak out on the call, and that's absolutely fine. But if you want to put some questions in the chat, I can read them out. Anything directed at Scott that you might want to like just ask. It could be about yourself. It could be about you're a co. I know we've got some clubs on, so it could be like maybe a problem or a challenge that you've had around a group of young people, how to include somebody. I'm sure Scott would happy to. So we've got a one in the chat. So that's from Helen. And what's the? Can you see the chat, Scott, as well?
Sorry?
What can you see the chat as well? I can read it out anyway. But
No, I can't, no. But
yeah, that's fine. What's the objective of the workshops? Okay, is this help for coaches or culture change in Bike Cymru? So I guess the specific workshop, Scott, we'd want for the cycling community is that's what we'll be asking you to do.
yeah, it's about sort of helping people to then create the proactive toolkits for the environments that they work in. So we bring different people from different backgrounds together, sort of for a reflection discussion on what it is to be neurodiverse, difficulties and challenges of being neurodiverse within club environments, how club leaders can then be more inclusive, be more accommodating of neurodiverse people within their clubs, and just so they understand better, some more in
Yeah,
depth what it is to be autistic and ADHD or dyslexic or have dyscalculia or dyspraxia. Um, so you can sort of the idea is sort of we talk about strategies and ideas of how to work with people with our brains. And so then you can then take all that information, then create a toolkit that's proactive for your club or your school or your business. So it's not telling you what to do, but then it's helping you, giving you a sort of supportive guide of what you can do then with that information.
great. Yeah, I think that covers it. And yeah, similarly, Helen, all of the Biker Cymru staff, we're planning on doing a different, a separate session as well. So certainly this is something that's really important to us here as an organization, and we want to embed that here. So Morgan, you've put your hand up, so please unmute and ask a question. Do you just want to introduce yourself, Morgan? Where you're from as
Yeah,
well?
can do. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name's Morgan. I am the inclusion trustee at Dean Trail Volunteers in Forest of Dean, and also doing a bit of work with the Mountain Bike Wales steering group, again, focusing on inclusion. And I've also done one of these a couple of months back, but from a different perspective, so more looking at physical disabilities within cycling. So Scott, I found that really interesting tonight. So thank you, first of all,
Thanks.
for sharing your story, your experiences. I've taken a lot from that already. From my experiences as someone with a physical disability that's quite visible, people when you're out in the supermarket or in a lot of sporting situations will lead with, do you mind me asking what happened? What I've noticed that's different in mountain biking, because people are generally interested in the equipment, talking about the gear that you're using, what they'll more often say is, that's a really cool bike. Can you tell me about your bike? Or can you tell me about your prosthetic arm that you're using? And that is such a different way of having a conversation and making someone feel welcome within a setting. And something that, we're really interested in at Dean Trail Volunteers is, yes, doing what we can to remove physical barriers that exist on the trail network to people who, might be using a different type of bike. But we're also really interested in what can we do to make the culture and the feel of the space as inclusive as it can be from every possible point of view. So I just wonder, are there any examples that you can draw on, either from yourself or from, stories that you've heard, that are ways that we can welcome neurodiverse people in without perhaps being too direct, but also without ignoring their neurodiversity? What's that kind of sweet spot from your experience?
So for me, it's always like yourself, it's sort of almost starting the conversation about, maybe bike you're riding, or what your background in cycling is, or what your last adventure was. Something that's going to, for me, sort of almost relax that person's mind and just feel like they're having a normal conversation of someone that's interested in what they've done, where they've come from, so they sort of feel connected with the group or the person they're talking to straight away. And sometimes my experience, it tends to sort of come out a little bit naturally that people talk about being a little bit neurodiverse, or they've got certain difficulties with certain things. Sometimes to me, I'll ask them sort of with something with kind of mountain bike, because it's quite a technical sport. It's sort of, are there kind of areas that you might find sort of difficult that you want to learn more about, or have a certain technical aspect you want to know? Well, I'd just managed to get my physio qualification, because certain aspects of physio I wasn't very good at, just because my brain didn't lean very well into certain parts of it. But the musculoskeletal kind of problem-solving part, I did. So I use that quite a lot. And when I kind of speak to people, it's sort of, okay, kind of what do you need? Sort of, how can we help you? How can we help you sort of get better? What is it you can sort of want out of coming here, if you like? What support do you need? And sometimes people will start talking about their issues or challenges, and they'll open up a little bit more, because they start to, you're almost creating this safe, accepting space for them. Like the approach that you have, where they start talking about the bike first, as opposed to sort of, oh, what happened, and sort of you kind of feel then like you're different straight away, and that's obviously what we don't want to do. When I've worked with a lot of adapted amputee athletes here in Chamonix that come for running, and I'm sort of talking about, oh, that's amazing, kind of like, how does that work? I'm not interested about how things happened. It's sort of how they are now, and how how they're getting on now, and what they're enjoying now. What to them is what makes them happy right now is the kind of important thing. This is just any kind of way of just helping them feel much more relaxed within that initial conversation. For me, is kind of really important. Doesn't matter sort of where they come from or the difficulties or things like that. It's sort of great. You join the club, great. What would you like to do, and where you'd like to go? What have is there anything you'd like to improve on? Or particularly sort of want to improve on that, sort of what challenges do you find maybe in trying to learn that particular skill? And I can just sort of softly lead then into, oh, well, I'm a little bit neurodiverse. I need kind of more precise instructions, or I have a bit of a barrier or a block to learning that. So
I'll just stop you there, Scott. So this leads on perfectly, I think, to a question that Gareth has put in the chat. So I think you're kind of covering off some of the tactics potentially of how you would answer this question. So Gareth Jones from Cardiff BMX. He's thought really insightful and powerful. Thanks for sharing. But how would you suggest clubs start the dialogue with parents, carers, who know the young people well, and so that the club can work to fit riders rather than riders fit the club. So I think that's kind of why you've just started to kind of answer almost is that dialogue at the start, how, what skills would you like to learn? How, is there you're the expert, Scott. You tell,
Yeah, sort of people tend to
you
sort of
tell.
come
Yeah,
come into a club either because they want to be a bit more have this sort of social environment, or they want to learn new skills and learn off other people. Like the other sort of mentioned, it's sort of, oh great, you come onto the campus. It's really nice to see you. And there's sort of particular aspects of cycling you want to get better at, and those particular areas you want to learn, or the particular sort of tricks or skills that you want to learn. What have you found that might be stopping you from doing that? What have been sort of your barriers to that? Well, like I sort of mentioned, there's sort of couple of parents sort of, with their younger kids, they feel like they're different, so they're not going to be accepted in a way. So I'm not going to talk about that initially. I'm just going to sort of talk about their cycling and the skills and what they want to learn, and allow them then to sort of open up themselves. I find that sort of a better approach than trying to ask about it straight away, because then straight away you're going, oh well, you're a little bit different, so how, what should we do about that? I'm more
yeah.
interested in them learning their skills and being part of the club than anything else initially. Then other things sort of can come out. But
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really good advice there. Thank you, Scott. So yeah, again, feel free people to put your hands up as well. It's quite nice to have not just have me read the questions out, but Chris has asked a question in the chat. I guess again, this is a bit more directed towards you about your experiences, Scott. How does elements of being neurodiverse affect your coaching? Both positive and challenges. So I know you do a bit of coaching yourself, Scott,
yeah,
and ride leadership and stuff. So how does being neurodiverse, what's the positives and challenges of your experience?
positives. I guess I take being perfectionist as quite positive. Um, ADHDers tend to be very empathetic towards other people as well, which can really help with coaching. Because I always really encourage a lot of feedback from people because I want to know what's happening. And then if I don't hear what's happening, and then I sort of start to worry, is, what I'm giving them, is it working? Is it not working? Are they getting too tired, or is it too easy? Um, so it makes me just ask, be the one that asks for feedback all the time. So I know kind of how to set the levels kind of each week, and where my client is at, because that's really important for me. Um, but conversely, I do worry about it quite a lot. I just sort of I worry about, am I getting this right? Am I getting this wrong? If I don't get that feedback, that creates a sort of level of ambiguity. So then I start filling in the spaces with negativity, which is the sort of the natural side that our ADHD brains tend to go to, as opposed to the positive, going, "Oh, things are okay." We kind of worry that things kind of aren't. So sometimes because of our patients, we can do a little bit too much. Um, Instead of sort of backing off a little bit. So we sort of always want to keep ahead of ourselves, make sure we're doing the right thing all the time, which sometimes can be quite mentally fatiguing. Instead of sort of just toning it down a little bit, and sort of letting the client just sort of get on with what they're doing, and then allowing them to feedback. So it's almost trying to find that balance within coaching of being empathetic with your client, but not being too much so, and worrying about it instead of messaging them too much. Because some clients like being managed to kind of a high level, and then they need that kind of feedback and being asked all the time and that nudge all the time. And then some clients don't need it at all. Maybe kind of just once a week they'll kind of connect with you and feedback and tell you what's going on. So it's kind of working out that level for each client, which sometimes can just take a little bit of time and working with the client, and just some good communication with them. But
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, it's balancing those two out. But
yeah.
it does work. It just takes a
Yeah.
while to know your clients and how they want to work. So
Yeah, I guess being like I think you touched upon it during the presentation. So being somebody who finding your belonging in cycling, you're the subject matter of cycling and coaching and helping people. You're just super hyper focused then. So
Mhm.
your knowledge base is going to be far superior, I guess, than myself, potentially. So, like one thing. We have got another question in the chat. So one thing, one thing I really thought was really good. So I do a bit of, I'm a swim teacher as well, and I do coaching, and certainly that you said about fighting with them when they're tired
Mhm.
for young people when there's so I've never really I've all I just I think people bring their children because they want them to learn to swim or learn a new skill, so you feel sometimes obliged to fight with them to get them to learn to do something. But
Mhm.
yeah, actually, like what that you're not gonna ever going to achieve anything, and that's right because I've had a fight with lots of young people with on the spectrum, and it doesn't get no nobody it achieves nothing from either of us. So I guess is it's just so they would just want to play. So maybe I can think of games that like a guided discovery, let them actually learning through that. So it's just being a bit creative from my end, I guess. Scott, is that fair to
Yeah,
say?
it's sort of again that's sort of part of the workshops is sort of we sort of
Yeah,
discuss that. So then you kind of sort of think around that. It's like, okay, what games have I got in my toolkit that I can then use with these neurodiverse kids to sort of keep them engaged or um, stop them from getting a little bit disruptive, if you like, with the rest of the group.
yeah,
Have you guys disappeared? Are you still there?
yeah. We are here.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry. Um, yeah, if you create sort of games and they're still being active, the brains are still being active, they're still learning in some way, but it might not just be the directed learning that you're given to everybody else. Um, so yeah, it's sort of trying to accommodate that and having some sort of backup that you've got uh, for these kids.
yeah. Okay, right. So Dan, I will come to you in 1 second. You got your hand up, but yeah, Helen has put a comment in. So her daughter is ADHD, autistic, road and track cyclist for GB and Bike Your Cymru. So I think I know who your daughter is now. She's been listening in on the call, and lots of things you've said. She's really enjoyed listening, and everything you've said resonates very much. They have contacted you on Instagram as well, Scott. So I'm
Okay,
sure you're so to look out for that. Thank you, Helen. Yeah.
thanks.
And then yeah, Scott Tim has left a comment. He's found it a really informative evening, and he's plenty to take away. He's got to head off now, but he's looking forward to the workshop and attending that. So yeah, lots of compliments, and I echo what they're saying. So nice to be positive, Scott, for a change, isn't it? It's not always positive at Bike Your Cymru. Some of the emails and things I get, if
Yeah.
I'm honest. So Dan, you've got your hand up there. Do you want to just
Yeah,
introduce yourself,
right.
Dan? A
Hey
bit
Dan.
about
Yes, nice to meet you all. I'm actually over the border in the Forest of Dean as well, and I work with the Little Fodders Club.
okay,
Um, at the advanced end of the club, we've got quite a few people with uh, diagnoses or have had assessments for ADHD in particular, I'd say. Um, there's a real struggle once we get into an environment that is potentially quite high risk. If people don't kind of receive and understand the parameters that we're working in as coaches, um, it's quite a struggle to bring the whole group back to the point where they can receive the information and actually do the task, do the coaching task. Once we've got underway, once we've done maybe one or two bits, the kind of the stimulation kind of regulates the ADHD brains. They're great on the bike, but as soon as you pull them off the bike, they can't regulate back down to how they would behave in school, say, just for the minute or two that it is. Have you got any tips to kind of get that seesaw? Because on the bike, brilliant.
Yeah.
Off the bike, sometimes it can be dangerous for the other group members because they're not receiving the correct bits.
Yeah, I resonate with that. You sort of you stop being active and you kind of your brain it's just like it's just on off switch. Um I have something with me that I can, are those kind of like fidget things that came out a few years ago. They're a bit of a fad, but things like that I found for me really helps if we got something kind of that I can practically I can work with in my hands. Usually when I'm doing my workshop, I'll have like a pen in my hands. Um, so that's sort of keeping me quite active.
Sorry,
Um,
Chris, sorry, Scott. I just see Chris with a pen in his hand, and he just had a bit of a chuckle.
so
On the screen. I was
stuff,
just
I'll
watching.
always sort of have something to
So,
hand, or um, I just kind of feel that kind of just keeps the kind of regulation going in my brain when I've stopped writing or stopped running. Um, for me, so I don't know whether that's something that you can apply practically within your particular situation, but or try sort of
Yeah, I'm sure there's something friendly. We're never miles away from base
mm,
at the club, so there's we've got room to carry stuff and things, little things like that, easily fit in a pack, coach's pack. So yeah,
sort of
maybe
like
that's
worth a
something
sh
to sneak in and see if it works.
yeah, definitely worth a shot, I think, Dan. If that, on, I guess it's not going to be everybody in the group playing with fidget, so you're going to need to bring a massive backpack. But maybe
No,
maybe it is everyone in the group
no,
doing
no.
or
the same
giving
thing. Yeah.
sort of very precise sort of verbal cues and timing for the time that they're gonna be off the bike. Because sometimes if we don't know how long we're going to be off that bike for, we'll start sort of fidgeting and thinking about being back on the bike. So if you give a very
Yeah,
precise kind of time frame, right, we're going off the bike for 2 minutes, and it sort of has to be sort of that sort of 2 minutes. We know that's going to be stopped for 2 minutes, and we can work with that. Because if we don't know if it's kind of open-ended, oh, when we're going to get back on the bike, sort of my mind starts wandering, thinking about biking. So sometimes that can really work as well. Just being kind of very precise for that time that you're going to be giving some
yeah, being direct with it.
stopping and giving instruction for. Because oh, we're going to be 5 minutes, and then it ends up being 10, and yeah, our minds are going to wander back to kind of the trail we just did or something we want to go and do.
Yeah.
It's like another
Class.
way of approaching it.
Cool.
But
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks very much.
thanks, Dan. So yeah, so there's some more questions and comments in that. So Rob made a comment. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Awesome session. Looking forward to the next one. So yeah, he's hopefully gonna come to the workshop. As somebody diagnosed last week, the timing of this has been amazing and really started to look back on life now, and it really resonates. So again, some more compliments for you there, Scott. Thank you. So Roman's got a question. Um, I would like to ask, what strategies would you recommend for managing overstimulation or anxiety? For example, during competition. So again, somebody you mentioned earlier, you competed at a high level. How did you, maybe you didn't used to deal with it, I guess, but have you got any tips there?
Yeah, when I was competing and doing stage races and marathons, I mean, I knew nothing about I hadn't heard of neurodiversity back then, so I did sort of suffer with probably this pathological demand avoidance or sort of performance anxiety, if you like. I'm kind of better at it now. It's still sort of a hangover, if you like, because it's sort of turning the worry for me now into passion, even though that's sort of a similar kind of feeling. You don't get the same cortisol kind of response, and that's how I do these workshops. Because for me, previously, I used to get anxiety about performing in front of people, but now because I reframe it as something I'm passionate about and I want to do, not for the performance necessarily, or for showing or people that I'm good at something or trying to find validation. It's because it's something fun for me, something that I enjoy, and just so with the cycling, it's sort of that's just how I want to express myself. Workshops is a different way I want to express myself, but now my cycling kind of competition when I do the bike packing stuff, it's my passion. I'm not there necessarily sort of to validate myself anymore. And that really helps me kind of bring like the performance anxiety down, because I'm not telling myself I have to be at the pointy end to validate myself and be seen. I'm sort of there to ride my bike. I know I'm quite, I've got a certain level of skill, but it's just a passion. I mean, it's sort of working with that in your brain. It takes a while to sort of to flip that mindset. But that's just for me how I've managed to sort of turn that around, turn that anxiety around. Doesn't always work 100%. Things like this aren't going to, but it's sort of worth trying and looking at it from that different angle.
Yeah, class. Awesome. Is that hopefully that answers it gives you some insight then there, Roman. So I'm just trying to keep on top of all these comments here again. Okay, so Morgan's at a few people have dropped off now, but again, they're really looking forward to the workshop. Yeah, we've got time for a few. So usually we pencil this in for around 90 minutes. So we do have a little bit more time. So I'm happy for us to take a few. Obviously, I know time is precious for Scott, but happy to take a few more questions. Again, if you're happy to kind of unmute and put your hand up, please do. Gideon? Gideon's got his hand up. If it enticed him out, he's in the darkness. I don't know. Where are you, Gideon?
I am in the darkness. I'm actually waiting to pick up my boy from his work, so I'm in the van. Apologies if you can hear any background
Yeah,
that's
noise.
fine. Do you just want to introduce yourself, Gideon? What club you're part of?
I'm part of Cardiff BMX Racing Club. I do a bit of coaching. Gareth, who's on the call, is our coach lead. I'm vice chair in the club now, and was one of the kind of founding members of the club. Scott, I really just want to say a massive thank you for this.
Thanks.
This has been a real eye opener for me. As you've been speaking, it kind of opens my eyes to quite a few of our kids who, various different degrees of a condition, be that an OCD or an ADHD or even dyspraxia or various different conditions that some of our riders have, and just how to maybe better react to the way that some of that behavior that comes out of that condition. And for me, it's been a real education. So I just wanted to step up and say a massive thank you. Big respect for what you're doing. It's about educating people and awareness, and those two things go hand in hand. And what you're doing is gold, mate. Absolute gold.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I hope maybe it does help people because
I've been speaking with Gareth throughout our chat, and there's several riders that we work with on a very regular basis, at least every week. And for us, it might not be about how their achievement in a race condition or anything like that. It's just for them, it might just be getting down the 5-meter hill in our BMX track, right? That's a huge achievement for them, and they've got a lot of things which they're thinking of, or be that anxiety that they're dealing with, or questions, or how they will react. And it's about us as a club working out, I think, as Gareth put, how the club can change to better be able to cater for riders with a condition, rather than trying to force riders to change to be able to fit in with the club. And yeah, so this has been brilliant. But I really look forward to a workshop. Putting some maybe some hints and tips of how to cope and get the best out of people with different conditions. I can't wait for it. Be great.
Class. Thanks, that's awesome, Gideon. And as an advocate for the greatest discipline in the cycling world, BMX racing, I'm glad you've put your hand up. And although, Scott, I will say I'm from the rival BMX club as a volunteer. I'm from Llinvi BMX up in my stake, so big up Llinvi BMX. Anyway, sorry, Gideon.
No worries.
Cheers. So we've got Chris's hand up. Chris, do you just want to unmute and introduce maybe just who you are?
It was my question about the sort of coaching with neurodiversity. Similarly, I'm sort of going through the latter stages of a sort of diagnosis as well, actually this week. So a lot of the things you've said have really, really hit a chord. My background, I worked as a teacher for children with additional learning needs with ADHD and autism specifically. So a lot of these comments have really hit home, actually. So the anxiety element to it, certainly that's something I've sort of some penny drop moments there tonight. And certainly in terms of our club, and with mainly Flyers and Ajax, I know Helen's daughter is actually with us at our club, so it's posed questions. So just want to say thanks. It's lots of penny drop moments there tonight. So thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, so Ajax, you're part of, and the Flyers as well, Chris. Yeah.
So sort of starting bits of coaching journey, similar from what you were saying, finding my way into cycling club late in life, not thinking it was for me. There's some people at Sunset Cycle say, "Shut up, go on, get stuck in." And so glad I did. But then it's just taking that next step, building confidence to take a little bit more of an active role in the coaching. And certainly what you were saying about getting feedback and those gaps, leaving blanks. It's been lovely from some of the coaches, certainly at Flyers, to get some feedback on my coaching as well, to help me, coach better as well. So yeah, cheers.
That's kind of it. Sort of even with kind of my learning, it's sort of I need to know where I'm at. I need to get my feedback as well from people I'm learning from. And if I don't, then probably like you, we fill in the gaps, but in a negative way. Oh, am I not? They haven't feedback back to me. Have I done something wrong? Have I not got something right? And we need to know where we are. We need
Absolutely.
to have that predictability at each kind of stage. And if we don't get it, then we're like, we got that anxiety kind of starts creeping in, and yeah.
I mean, the one other thing that struck a chord as well, you were saying about techniques for sort of focusing in between your coaching. I think a lot of the stuff that works for people with some neurodiversities will also, I think better improve like coaching in general. I think maybe, I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, it's sort of having kind of just it's kind of micro achievements to focus on each time, and sort of either sort of technical aspects or the data, or we need that sort of something to kind of work to create that motivation as well each time, whether it's sort of numbers or heart rate or sort of we have this ambiguity of just go training, but it doesn't work for us. We need precision almost.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Everyone is just saying the same thing in the comments. So yeah, and I agree. I completely agree. We got time for some more questions. But yeah, I've got I don't know. I don't always like asking questions, but I do. I am a volunteer coach myself, but definitely we've got Bex here, who's our new BMX lead at Bike Your Cymru too, and she's also part of helping and coaching now at Llanview BMX. And yeah, definitely we've got my daughter included. She's dyspraxic, and certainly like her understanding of learning different types. So she's always done like road cycling or triathlons, but going from a triathlon bike to a BMX, you think would be quite easy because it's still pedals and pushing the pedals round and pulling a brake. But actually, is you might as well be skateboarding. It's like that. It like that. It's really hard for it kind of to understand that a different discipline and even flip between them both as well. But even like she's 17 now, but even just like clipping out, I know it's difficult for some of us. So that, in BMX racing, they have race clip shoes now, but even just doing that, really intelligent, like a star student in school, hopefully going to studying a degree level now in September. But yeah, like little basic things he really struggles with. So yeah, so obviously the approach and the persistence, I think, isn't it, Scott? But dyspraxia, do you know much about that? What would be your
a little bit.
approach?
A friend of mine's son's been diagnosed with dyspraxia.
Yeah.
We sort of quite frustrating, and it's sort of again, it's one of those things of not telling them to try harder or apply themselves because that just creates frustration for anybody. Yeah, it's sort of the language you use and how you sort of navigate the coaching someone how to do something, and sort of taking the time and the patience with them as well, and allowing them to basically kind of not make the mark and make those mistakes. And making them see those mistakes as just part of the learning process.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and
matter how many times it sort of doesn't happen.
yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, but like a part of big problem with her. So again, we were at Exeter BMX track yesterday, at the like a regional race, but like there's even I'm just saying what she kind of tells me, but all of the gates are different. So the start gates go boo, 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 and they drop, but if the gates look different, it's like learning to balance all again because the gate looks different because the grid on the gate
Yeah.
hasn't got the same grip line. So that like at the BMX track up in my stake is very much different the gate is to other gates. But obviously it's hard for people to understand. Like, well, it's just a gate. It's exactly the same. It falls down. You balance on it the same way. But because it looks different and the grit, the color of the metal is slightly different. Like it brain doesn't work in that way. Is that right, Scott? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, no, it's sort of
Yeah, well, she's told me that. So
ADHD brains were sort of we very visual learners, and we learn to sort of see how something is, and then we can work with that. And that's sort of certainly with the autistic side as well. We learn that's how something is for us, and that's the safe place for us. We'd say, with a particular gate, we know how that works. So for us, that's safe. It's going to work how we expect it to. So for someone like that, it's almost, if you can do, is introduce them to the new gate before the competition, either earlier in the day if you can, or the day before, and sort of take them through the new gate really slowly and how it's going to work and how it's going to function, and help them sort of visualize that new gate so it's not something completely new on competition day. I think that's sort of
yeah,
going through the visualization process is sort of we use that in physio quite a lot as well for rehab. It's a really, really strong treatment of helping people to visualize movement or visualize new tasks or visualize new ways of doing something. And that really helps them progress and feel safe then with that movement or that new environment.
yeah, 100%. I agree, and obviously we've learned, but we've known since she was in primary school. So we've learned as a family how to approach things in different ways. Not just cycling, but yeah, she loves riding on a bike. So why not, isn't it? So does anyone else have any questions then? Before we've got 4 minutes left. Well, I'm happy to take one more question or comment. And obviously Scott's time is we've had him long enough now. But Peter Stack, you've got your hand up. Do you just want to introduce yourself, who you are, or what if you're part of a club, and then ask your question?
Yeah, I just managed to get myself off mute, and I've been struggling with the video, so my battery ran out halfway through.
No.
Yeah, no, that's been really good, Scott. I'm from Cardiff BMX, so I just started helping with the coaching element, and this I recognise a lot of the symptoms, to be honest, sort of in myself. To be fair, and I've got two lads that in the BMX, mountain biking and cyclocross, so I can struggle to keep up, to be honest. But yeah, that's been really useful. It's been really interesting, to be fair, and looking forward to the workshop and learning more. So thanks for your time. It's been really
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming along.
It looks like it's going to be a busy workshop, Scott. We're going to have hands full of that, but maybe we'll try to book a time when people aren't available. So just to be awkward now. No, definitely. It'll probably be a Monday, guys. In next month at some point. So and yeah, if you could try and probably start at maybe about 7 o'clock, or maybe a bit earlier, Scott. I think 6:30 will probably work. So we're done then in maximum 2 hours, like 8:30 would kind of work then, wouldn't it? So if you could try and like when I'll email everyone here directly. And similarly, if there's other people at your clubs who you think would benefit from coming, please, get them on the call. Yeah, I know you've got like quite a few. I think that was Gideon then. I think. Yeah, go on, Gideon.
No, we've definitely got some more people who we'd like to attend as well. We're very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, great.
Mark, you need a new gate at Climby.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work at the minute. It doesn't really work at the minute, Gideon, if I'm honest. So
In all seriousness, actually, the standardization of that could be a help with the justification for getting maybe towards attracting some funding towards a new gate, because things like this do have an impact. The modern Pro Start gates that do tend to be the ones which are used all over the country. Those are becoming more uniform, and it can help with things like this. So
definitely.
I take the make. I've always said that Climmies need a new gate for years now, and I'm always taking a mark for that. But in all seriousness,
I agree.
It might be something to look at.
Yeah, 100%. And essentially, Scott, if you'll have to come up now to Llinby BMX, because everyone's welcome up to Llinby BMX, FYI.
Nice.
But
and Cardiff, Scott.
And Cardiff is also great definitely. As well. And the Dragon Riders up in North Wales. But
definitely,
if you've ever seen a bear trap, Scott, with it'll take your leg off, you land underneath the gate in Llinby. Like, is that bad? But it's great though. It's proper old school. It's from the Iron Age. But anyway, so sounds good. Can I request it doesn't fall in the school holidays? Yes, Dan. I think we will try and avoid that.
Yeah, we'll avoid school holidays. Yeah.
Yeah, we think we'll try and do it after the school holidays later in April. But I think we're done. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I just want to echo all of the comments, and hopefully all of the please, when the recording's out, guys, if you think this messaging and Scott's story here is as important as you're saying in the comments, please share it and let's encourage more people to kind of engage in this conversation. But thank you so much, Scott. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we're done. So.